I'm doing a teardown on a 360 Mopar that I built a number of years ago. It's kind of floated around vehicle to vehicle. When I had it running in a vehicle day to day, it ran really good. But what happened is I put it in a vehicle and I never finished getting it running, and it just sat for years. And when I finally got it up to where I'm at now and got it running, I never could get it to tune right. It had bad oil leaks and started smoking, and it developed a knock. So I don't know what's going on with it, but I'm tearing into it to see what we got going on, and I'm just going to rebuild it depending on what I need to replace. Because it was a good running engine at one point. So I'll just do a teardown analysis on it. Some of the things I saw, some of my oil leak was, I've already removed the rear main seal here, but I didn't put the silicone on the edges and clean all that up real good. So I think that was the majority of my oil leak that I had, which run a little bit low on oil and then going and hot rodding it a little bit isn't good on the bearing. So I already have pulled the number one bearing up here, and the crank didn't look to be in real good condition. It got some contamination damage in there. So I'm going to get that turned down if it's turnable. It's already been done 2020. So I'm going to pull the rest of this apart, check all my rings, make sure I don't have stuck rings or anything. The cylinder bores look real good. Probably can't see this. It's going to be too dark. But they look real good, no rust in them. So I feel good at just going through and doing a basic rebuild on this engine. Depends on what the rings look like. I might reuse them. I have all my pistons marked, so I'm going to put them back in the same hole. So I'm taking the pistons out of this 360. So one of the techniques I'm using is I get the rod cap off. I rotate the crankshaft so that it pushes the piston at top dead center. And then I rotate a little further to get it out of the way. I use this wooden stick and a hammer, and I stand in front of the piston so I can catch it as it comes out and gently, very gently tap it out. You don't want to get aggressive to this point. You don't want that rod bolt coming down and hitting the crankshaft and dinging it, or your rod coming down and hitting your cylinder and dinging that either. And you definitely don't want to drop your piston. That's not healthy for them. Cleaning up the Dodge 360 that I'm about to build. So I've already washed it down. I've wire wheeled it down now and got a lot of the old stuff knocked off. The paint's sticking pretty good, so I just went through and scuffed it with some A180 grit in preparation for painting. So that's not the next step on it. I'm going to have the engine built and have everything covered up before I actually paint it. But I can get all the loose stuff off, so I'm not worried about that while I'm building the engine. So the next thing I'm going to do, now that I got all my pan rails cleaned up and timing chain surface is all cleaned up. The next thing I'm going to go through all these bolt holes and spray them out with brake clean and do my thread chase tap on it and chase all the threads till those are nice and clean. After that, I'll work on my oil galleys and then finally do my cylinders. I'll wipe those down real good. Here are the tools I'm going to use to clean this engine. So these are thread chasers. You can get these for standard, metric, fine, and coarse threads. So it has little flutes in there so it allows all the dirt to come out. And then it has a socket head so that you can go through and run that down. I'm going to be using my drill on most of these, and it's not for a torque reason, it's just for a speed reason. If these things are tight, there's something wrong. That hole needs to be cleaned out better. So that's what these brushes are for. I have different size brushes. You can get these engine cleaning brushes in a kit. And I'm going to clean all the holes out before I even come down and tap that. I don't want crud getting in there and breaking a tap or anything like that. These should, whenever it's done, be able to go in hand tight very easily. So I'm going to use brake clean, and I got some extra MAF cleaner that I don't have anything right now that has a MAF, so I'll use that to clean everything out real good and use the taps and the brushes to get the holes good and clean. So I'm cleaning the bolt holes out, and I got to the front timing chain cover bolts and water pump bolts, and this is the kind of crud that's coming out at the front there. So that's why it's important to get that out. Those go right into the coolant system, so that's the kind of crud that would be in my coolant system if I didn't clean that out. Let alone all the bolts, when I put it together, they're going to bottom out or get false torques. I've been cleaning the head bolt holes out. I got all of one side done. It's important, these are blind holes on this engine anyway, to make sure you do a little brake clean when you're done, and then use an air hose to blow them out real good. There's still crud, still was crud in the bottom. I got this stuff all over me. So just to let you know kind of what come out of the bolt holes. This is I put a little paint thinner in this cup here to rinse my brush and my tools out with, and that's what was left over after I dumped it out, and that's just one side of the engine. So just made this tool right quick to clean out my cam bearings. All I did is just took some PVC pipe and taped the rag onto it, drizzled my oil over the top of it, and then just ran it down to the back cam bearing, and just work my way forward, and then reapplied oil as necessary so I have a good light coat of oil on my cam bearings. So the next thing I'm going to do is clean out my lifter valley, and then come in and do something similar on my lifter bores, make sure they're good and clean, and lifters fall up and down easily in those. After all that's done, then I'll get to the cylinders, clean those up. So it's just a process of working on something that's dirty, and then I know it's going to spread dirt elsewhere, and just chasing it down and getting to the most important parts last, which is the cam bearings, lifter bores, and cylinders. I'm cleaning up some stuff on this 360 block, and I wanted to point out that this little cast slot right here, if you know anything about failure analysis, that small cast radius there is actually going to weaken the block. That's where the crack propagation is going to be. So what I'm going to do is drill that out and make it a larger radius. That's going to help with my oil drain back, and also make the block a little stronger in the lifter valley. So this is what it looked like with it done. Just a good radius, taking out all those corners. I might come in and do a little bit more cleanup on that, but that's still a lot stronger than what it was before, and I get better oil drain back.